Okay, now we're rolling, Daniel.
Awesome.
I am here today with Daniel Jones of, am I saying it correct? The Aspie World?
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Okay, cool. I said it right. I wasn't sure.
It's okay. Yeah, a lot of people do get it wrong, but you said it correctly. Yeah.
Okay, good. And so I have to share with everybody how I met you because it was just, this is where people talk about social media not being a good thing. And you are the perfect example of just, you were just letting your light shine. You made some really smart aleck, but funny comment on something. I wish I would have saved it because it was what attracted me to your
Light brand.
Twitter account. Right. And so
Yeah.
I go there and then I see this huge, banner that says the Aspie World. And I was like, okay, now I've got to know what that is. So I'm following you. And then I go straight to your YouTube and I see you have over, I think at the time you had like 180, 190, and now you're over 200,000 followers.
Yeah.
So bravo. That's a lot of hard work,
Thank
I
you.
know.
Yeah, yeah. It does take a lot of work, yeah, but I love it. I love all that stuff. I can't remember what it was. Like
It was
I
so
kind of
funny.
I just jump onto Twitter every now and then. I'm just like, I'm gonna put some humor in, and I don't know if was it something. I don't know. It's I have no idea.
I don't either, but I just know that it made me laugh out loud, and I was like, "That man deserves
Oh.
a follow for that." And so then when I followed you, I just expected, like I normally do, just follow him and go off.
Yeah.
But then when I saw the Aspie World, I was like, or Aspie World, I was like,
Yeah.
I have to know more. I have to. And you call it TAW, like TAW, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, Tal, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we shorten it down just because like saying the Aspie World all the time is just like super mundane. So me and my team were always like just Tau and it's just easy, like Team Tau, we've got my staff and stuff. So yeah, it's cool, but we've been around. I think I've started making videos in 2013, but I didn't actually start consistently uploading until 2015. And so then in 2017 I took it super seriously and here we are today. It's my full-time gig, yo.
I love it. And what a really cool way to have a mission. Like it was God-given mission, and you took a hold of it and you grabbed it by the reins, and this is what you do. And so, if you could share with everyone how you got started with this, because I think it's really your journey is very very cool.
Yeah, definitely, of course. Thank you for all the kind words. Yeah, so basically, I was actually diagnosed. I had some hard times in life, as we all do. It's the test, it's God's test, and so I was having a difficult time, and anyway, eventually after going through different types of therapies and speaking to different specialists, they said, "Oh, they diagnosed me what used to be called Asperger syndrome, which is basically like a high functioning autism." Right? People don't really use those terms; they just say autism spectrum disorder now. And so that was the diagnosis, but I knew nothing about autism, so I was kind of a bit lost in the dark, and I thought, oh my goodness. So I came home and I'm a visual learner and stuff, so I have dyslexia as well, so I'm heavily dyslexic. So I was like, even though I've got a best-selling book out in 3 languages, it's pretty cool, right? And I just signed my second book deal. I'm literally writing it right now, which is nuts and I use speak dictation, so I dictate to my phone and it writes the words. It's crazy. Anyway, I looked for videos on YouTube and it was just like, it was dire. This guy was like, my life sucks. I have Asperger syndrome and it's rubbish. I was like, oh no. So I was like, there was nothing positive about that, and I'm all about kind of like, I love helping people. So I was like, man, this guy's not helping anybody. He's making them feel worse, if anything. And it's not his fault. He's just
Right.
expressing himself in a raw kind of emotional state, which is unbalanced, right? So I was like, oh goodness, maybe I should put some balance into this perspective. So I thought, look, because I got ADHD as well, I love just goofing about and doing fun things, right? Like, just like skateboarding and all that kind of stuff, and just being fun. And I play music and I sing and I'm a multi-musician. So I thought, look, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make some videos, do like just some fun perspective of autism and see what happens. And that's kind of literally what I did. I figured there was nothing there.
Right.
Um, and the second thing, what made me really kind of go to say, okay, I'll continue with it was there was no role models. There's no like high functioning autistic role models, right? So for young kids, I'm thinking, wow, if I had seen somebody who was cool with the same condition to me when I was like, I don't know, like 12, like 13, I'd have been like, wow, this is dope. So I decided that that was going to be my thing. I'd try and create like a role model for kids. So I don't like, I don't do anything kind of crazy and extreme on my channel, like I just kind of give raw information. And I kind of look to myself as a shoulder for the parents as well, because I always feel like, the mums and the dads who are living day in, day out with like this this kind of like, oh my goodness, how, you know, they're doing the best. Being a parent is difficult at the best times, let alone if you have a kid who has a condition. So so I always kind of look to be there, kind of like, you know, don't worry, man, you're doing a great job, you know, everything's great. So yeah, so that's how I got started.
Oh, it's so cool. And so I have to back up a little bit just out of my own curiosity.
Of course.
What app do you use to speak into for dictation?
Well, years ago, there used to be an app I used called Dragon Dictation,
Yeah.
and but it was a bit pants, like it didn't really work. So, but I have an iPhone and an iPad, and so the speak to dictation, sort of the type of dictation software that's built into the OS is fantastic. So you literally just, you know, click, the keyboard pops up and there's a little microphone on it, right? So you just
Yeah.
talk to it, and it's just phenomenal.
Oh, that is so great to know. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, no, you're welcome. Yeah, and
I'm a visual learner too, so I always have to put
ah,
things into graphic infographics.
yeah,
If I want to understand something, I have to make myself a graphic, you know.
yeah,
It's
definitely.
so helpful. And so the people that are subscribers to this channel are mostly probably 40 and up. So they would be either mothers or grandmothers or
Yeah.
fathers or grandfathers. There's some younger ones. What advice would you have to somebody who is just finding out that their kid might be on that spectrum?
You know, it's interesting because now we have so that kind of audience base is a more wise audience base. You know, they've had a lot of experience. They know a lot about the world, and it kind of like hits you kind of like a bit of a shock if because you know the world, but you don't know intricate, complex, niche categories of the world, right? So if I was to talk to, you know, somebody about molecular symmetry and group theory, which I did my degree in, they'd be like, what were you talking about? But if I said something like, hey, you know, I'm not sure how to cook this chicken, they'd tell me how to cook the chicken, right? So what you're faced with when you're of an age, of great age, of kind of, you know, your 40s or 50s, you kind of have this shock factor. So the first thing I'd say is that like nothing is changed,
Right.
you just now have more information. So whereas you know, because a lot of people get diagnosis, think, oh, that's it, now it's changed. It's not like, it's not an illness diagnosis, it's an expanding diagnosis. So it's like, hey, this person's on the spectrum. So what you have now is opportunity, or abundance of opportunity. You know what I mean? And what I'd say is look to opportunity for the way to kind of navigate through this. And the opportunity would be this. You say, hey, my kid, you know, 19 years old, can't get a girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and you know they're struggling with social interaction and they have all this crap going on, but then suddenly you get this diagnosis, now you have a name for it, it's autism, right? So now you can go, okay, autistic social groups in my area, boom, you know. And so it's understanding the expansion of the opportunity that you've just been granted, right? And you know, I wouldn't say that there's any perfect time to be diagnosed with autism. I think that we're all where we need to be at the right time, and I think that the diagnosis comes at the right time because it's, you know, it's kind of God's plan, if you will. You know, it's like that was supposed to happen at that time. Supposed to happen at that time. It's not something that you kind of go, oh, I wish I'd known earlier, because nobody knows, you know, what you should have done or shouldn't have done earlier. But the biggest thing is to not kind of like freak out. I think a lot of people get this diagnosis and like, what now? All this stuff's going to change, but nothing really changes. You know, it's still the same person. You know, they still eat, you know, I don't know, like Fruit Loops every day for breakfast. Like it's not, you know, it's not going to change. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's
but 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 I think just, yeah, the last thing I'd say, just allow yourself to be open to the opportunities that are around you, and there's a bunch, right? Especially there's loads. You just have to just Google it, you know, just Google your area autism, boom, there you go. You everything's at your fingertips.
Yeah. So my daughter is deaf in one ear, and she was 4 when we figured it out. And to this day, if some doctor were to come up and say, "Hey, I can fix your ear," she would say no. So far, she would say no. And the reason is, when she sleeps, if she sleeps on her good ear, it just everything's gone. She has no noise, and she actually likes having the option.
Yeah, yeah,
So if somebody came to you and said, "Hey, Dan, we've got this, you know, Cermatin or whatever the latest thing is that says that they can cure autism,"
yeah.
um, would you take it?
That's a good question, you know, and I'll answer it like this. um Autism is a complex neurological condition that stems from the way the neurological capacity of brain mend when you're being created, right? So it's not something it's not like you've taken a poison and all of a sudden you're autistic, or it's not that you've been injected with something and you could suddenly mutate. It's not a mutation. It's a genetic effort of creation, right? So it's you as a being. So on a philosophical kind of idea, you're always meant to be who you are, because people learn from that, right? Life is happening for you, not to you, right? These are things, these are inherent things. So I always think, yes, I love the fact that my brain works in the way it does. I love the fact that I could do a degree in chemistry because I was bored. Like I was able to, challenge professors on the equation balancing because they were rubbish, like all these kind of things. And I love that, like I can learn languages quite easy, or pick up an instrument and learn it. But then it also has a downside where I say, I wish, I could walk into the middle of a city on my own and grab a cup of tea and sit down and drink, but I can never do those things. It's too my body, my brain won't let me do those things. So it's kind of like I would love to get rid of those things, and keep the good things, but there's a balance. We have to know that there's a balance, there's a payoff, isn't it? And I would say no to taking any serum or drug that would cure me, because I feel like I don't need curing. I have a mission, and I always say it's like I'm on a mission from God. Like I always say this to people, and I feel like my mission is to let's put it this way: God made man in His image, right? So like let's keep that going, you know what I mean, and just show what that image looks like. We're all, I think it's in I'm sorry, I did go off a little bit on theology, but like I think it's in Matthew. He says that the kingdom of God isn't within one man or a group of men, it's within all men, right? So we all share the responsibility to bring about the balance of peace and equilibrium in the universe, right? So I think it's a, for me, a philosophical thing as well, to kind of be where I am.
Yeah. And it was funny. I was watching one of your video. I watched a lot of your videos and I loved them. But one of them was talking about how if somebody doesn't know that you have that you're on the spectrum, and they'll sometimes react to something, and that there's a way that you handle that. And so I would love for you to share with people how you handle that.
so so if I tell them, you mean if I say, oh no, by the way, I'm autistic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you I mean, there's a lot, there's some explicit content that I say to people, but at the end of the day, like, people have predetermined ideas. And this is one of the poisons of reality, that people have predetermined ideas of what things are. Like, even though I'm not a psychologist, but I know exactly what an autistic person is, like that kind of attitude. It's weird. And it comes from trauma in their life. They're trying to get hold of control, right? So you say to somebody like, I'm sorry, I'm getting really confused. And they say, oh, why is this? And he's like, oh, I have an autism spectrum condition. I'm autistic. They're like, well, you don't look autistic. I said, well, you don't look ignorant, but you still said it. You know what I mean? It's like, geez, man. And so, so it's kind of like, yeah, my initial reaction is like, who the hell are you to tell me, what I am not, in terms of my condition? It's like, are you a doctor of psychology? No. So stop being so ignorant, dude. And it happens all the time because people are so judgmental. They believe like, oh, they'll say, oh, my cousin's kid is 3 years old and you look nothing like them. I'm like, yeah, because I'm a grown ass man. Like, come on, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm 36. Like that kid is 3. There's a huge difference here. We're going to act differently. And shock horror, we're different people, and that's another thing. Like your personality for who you are comes into play, everything you do, right? And so a lot of people, yeah, I just love it. And I used to have this thing, right? Because what it is those people are kind of like haters, right? And I never use the word hate. There's something about me, because there was
I don't like it
if
either.
you no, and I never use the word, right? But and so people always ask me, what are you going to do with haters? How are you going to deal with haters on the internet? All these people bashing you and stuff. Because you get it, you say one thing, there's gonna be 1,000 people saying something else, and they'll say you're, blah blah blah. So I say, look, there's no such thing as a hater. There's just people who need more love. So what I do is I respond to hate comments. If someone says like, you're a retarded a-hole, or I'm just like, I respond by saying, and it happens, dude, seriously. Like, so I respond saying, hey, I am so sorry that whatever's going on in your life is happening right now, but I'm here for you. And if you need me, reach out. I'm always happy to help. And I just hope that whatever it is, it passes, And 9 times out of 10, they'll comment back saying like, oh, I was on a rough day. And you know what it is? And I'd love to share this with everybody watching. And this is a lesson for everybody, because we're all social media users, right? And social media is a beautiful thing. I do feel that the people who diss social media have some history they need to kind of like confront. and then they'll be happy with it. Because social media is not an evil thing.
Right.
I mean, it can be,
How it's used. Yeah.
but it's how it's used, right? And your perception of it is based on your history of it. So if you've got like skeletons hiding in your closet, you got to confront them because that's what you're scared of. Anyway, people people on social media, let's just put it this way, right? We come from infinite kind of traveling through space and time to be conceptualized in this creation of life. Like, boom, there you go. You're alive for your force gone on 20, right? Maybe 80 years, 100 years probably for my generation, right? And then that's your average 100 years. And when you're at your deathbed, you're going to be like thinking about all the time that you spent with people, like the people you loved, the people who loved you, the time you spent with friends, the places you went, and all those things that really conceptualize the idea of love to you. What you're not going to worry about is who you spoke to on the internet, right? Oh, I called this guy an a-hole, or I called this guy retarded. But if you're spending your time doing that, your life is ending every second of every day, right? And it's such a shame that somebody would take some time of their precious life to say something negative to somebody else who they don't even know, and it's kind of like, it boggles my mind. So I always have empathy and sympathy for those people, because they're obviously clearly reaching out for help, because why would they? So whenever you see, and this goes to anybody watching, like whenever you see a hate comment or somebody being a bit of an idiot on social media, just worry about them in a way, because that's their life. They're spending to choose their precious time here on this planet. And it's a beautiful planet. It's a great time to, being alive is amazing. And they're using it to just be negative. So I just hope that they get it all sorted. But it was a good message to put in there. I thought it was the right time to say
I know,
that.
and I love the way you diffuse it, and it absolutely diffuses. I mean, a fight has to have two fighters.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can fight one direction. I mean, you can attack in one direction, but you can't fight in one direction. And
No, of
so,
course.
so it's on that exact topic. I would imagine there's a lot of parents and grandparents and even kids that are so thankful for you. Do you have a cool story to share? Some compliment, some email, something that would be, one of your favorites.
Yeah, I do actually. And I'll read it because I've read it 1,000 times. So I know this one. So oh, hold on. I just closed the page.
Take your time.
Okay. So basically I collect like comments or little snippets that people say back to me, because I want to be able to like kind of share those ideas or those stories. And so this person reached out to me and said, "Hey Dan, I reached out to you a few years ago when my son was diagnosed, and you've been the light that got us through understanding him and making his world more neurodiverse, which is autism spectrum, right, and better suited to help him thrive. He is currently in the best space of his life, surrounded by a tribe he loves and who accept him, and he is thriving. I've watched hours and hours of your videos, learning and growing and changing things to best suit him, and I owe you a lot to your openness and sharing. I just want to say thank you for doing what you do, and you're really changing people's lives. So thank you, love hearts." And I think, wow.
That made me
I
tear up.
Oh man,
That's
dude,
beautiful.
like seriously, like daily I get people emailing me similar things. But the bigger ones for me, people say to me like, "I saved their life," and like those things, like, whoa, dude, like, and it's crazy. The amount of work that needs to be done to help people is gargantuan, right? But every mission starts with a simple step. And so I feel like I'm taking that first step, right? I'm like flagshipping it. And then there's loads of advocates now on the internet doing what I'm doing. And they copied the formula, they're doing the same thing, which is great. I don't see them as copycats or competition. I see them as like taking the flag and lighting
Franchising.
another. Yeah. Just building it out, it's like, it's what needs to happen. But I love that stuff. These people are just, and to me, these guys are the heroes, because they're the ones who are applying the technology. If you can tell someone something to the blue in the face, but unless you apply yourself, then you're the one who's changing it. It's not me. Like these guys are the true heroes, and I love that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Do you have another one? I'm hating to be greedy, but that was, I mean, just filled my heart. Like that's the kind of stuff I love to hear.
Sure, I got a whole bunch. I'm just trying to find like a good one. Um, there's a short one that says, "Thank you for helping me learn how to be helpful and understanding for my 3-year-old granddaughter." Loads of smiley faces, loves. And there was a bunch of others I put on. Oh, hold on one second. I've got because I do some online courses and coaching and stuff. So I've always got like snippets from people This is a good one. So Nina, and this woman's name is Nina Lauder. She said, "Thank you for all that you share. You give us better resources and tips than any professional we've seen. You're saving our household." I love that.
That's a good, that's, and I love that too, because I feel like anyone on the front line of something has a better grasp of it.
Mm.
Now, whether they can reduce it down like you can. So tell me one of the things that like you were really proud of because it was like an epiphany. Like you start out with the noticeable things, right? And like you
Yeah.
can read about them or whatever. But tell us one of those that it was like a vapor. You could barely see it, and then all of a sudden it was there and you were able to share it with people.
Do you know, there's one that happened pretty recently, and it's been quite profound because it actually it went viral, so I had like 500,000 views in like a couple of days on Instagram and TikTok. And there was a I'm going to tell you a funny story in a minute about a therapist I help. But this specific thing that I want to tell you in answer to your question was, so autistic people's brains are at a refresh rate, a slightly different refresh rate to your neurotypical people, which is people who are non-autistic, right? And what this does, it has quite a strange phenomena. You might have seen autistic people doing this a lot, right? You might have come across this, right? And you're like, what on earth is this? So the name for this is stimming, which is short for self-stimulatory behavior, or soothing, self-stimulatory soothing. And this type of thing is a repetitive notion that soothes people. But there's a second meaning for why autistic people do this, and I'll explain that now. So the way the brain refreshes its the intake of light through its senses, because autistic people have something called sensory processing disorder, which means that we kind of input senses slightly differently because of the way the brain is wired. And it's kind of like a bit of a gift as well. I've got really good smell and like hearing and stuff, and I've never needed glasses. My eyesight's perfect and stuff like that. But uh, so there was this thing where fluorescent lighting and other types of lighting flickers like at a refresh rate, right? I think it refreshes at something like 60 frames a second, or 60 hertz a second, which is different to like your average human eye is at like 24 frames a second. It typically sees things. That's why movies are shot in 24 frames a second, because it makes it more kind of realistic. But I was shooting I was in a toy store basically with my son, and this thing happened. This light was flickering in my face. I was like, oh my god. I said to my girlfriend, I said, dude, can you see this? And she's like, no, I can't see it. She's not on the spectrum, right? I'm like, oh, man. And it's like, oh, it's like being in a disco, like, these lights going off. I'm like, holy smokes. So I'm like, right, I move away from that light. So I get my phone out and I'm like, hey, and what I realize is the phone can pick up that flicker, right? Which is weird. So the camera phone, because you can set it as 60 frames a second, it actually picks up the frequency intermittency in that. And I was like, holy smoke, I can capture this on film. So I captured it on film and I put a video together. I said, guys, this is so weird how only autistic people can really see this, or people who've got like neurodivergent brain types can see this, but people who are non-autistic can't see it. And I put that video out, and everyone was, I'm like, but that was the thing. Like I just took it for granted that like, oh, the light's doing, it's too much for me, and I get out. But I just kind of like said to my girlfriend, God, is this annoying you? She said no. But when I took my phone out, my phone could see it. I was like, oh, I can now show people. You know what I mean? I can't just explain it. I can show it to them, and it blew up. Like people just lost their minds. Like, holy smokes! And what the kids are doing with this is, if you've got light coming in like this, right? So this is the light wave coming in. If you do
Right.
this, it counter phases it, so it gives it a solid, you know what I mean? So what the kids are doing, they're blocking out the intermittency of the wave, right?
Yeah.
So that's what kids are doing. They're just wanting consistent lighting. That's all they're doing. So they're just getting rid of the light.
Well, it really makes me wonder too, because I've always had an aversion to large grocery stores because of those lights.
Yeah, they're
Now, I
horrible.
don't see any flickering, but I will avoid one of those stores at all costs. I want to go to the store that has just regular lighting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I don't know what it is, but I never thought about it until you said that it might be
yeah.
that reason.
Well, so another way to test the sensitivity of this is they're kind of like they're long, kind of like fluorescent tubing. Now, the timing of the frequency is set at the end. There's like a timer at the end of it where the fuse is, right? So it's stronger here. The signal will be stronger here, and like it gets like weaker in the middle, right? I can see the whole thing
And it
flashing, but
becomes
if
more solid and then
yeah, yeah, and that's right. So, but if you so look and see where you can start seeing that. So look in the middle of the light and look. As soon as you start seeing the flicker, because like if you're seeing it just at the end, it's like, okay, well, everyone sees that. But if you're seeing it kind of like just off center, then it could be that you have an aversion to it. You could just have sensory processing disorder. You know what I mean? It's still a
yeah,
neurodivergent
yeah,
brain
that's
type.
wild. yeah. Here I am, 57, learning this.
Yeah.
I love it. And so I was reading, I like to kind of peruse through and learn about things before I interview people. And one of the comments that I saw on Twitter, I wanted to get your opinion of. Somebody claimed that people who are on the autistic or Asperger's syndrome spectrum, rather, they tend to be more liberal in their politics than conservative. Do you think that is true, and do you think there's a reason for that?
I think, you know, it's really difficult. I'm really into geopolitical movements, and I wouldn't say that I'm um it's difficult. So yeah, I would say that the liberal part of it is because when you're thrust into a minority group, right? So you got 1 in 60 kids in the USA, or 1 in 60 people, 1 in 60 people in the USA, and 1 in 100 people in the UK who are on the autism spectrum. So you're a large minority, but you're still a minority nevertheless. When you're in a minority group, what tends to happen is you are rubbing shoulders with other minority groups, right? And then they will share culture, or they'll share ideologies. And what happens then is you become more open and liberal. You're liberated from tunnel vision or something, right? Or conservative thought
Right.
in a philosophical sense. And I think that's what happens. And also there's a more autistic people feel really deeply with like um empathy and stuff like that. Like you can't think of being in somebody else's shoes, but what happens is when you see someone suffering, you feel that, you feel it deep inside your core. Like I love doing like philanthropy and things like that. Anything I can do to help people, I will. I love that. And so those are tenants again that more align with like a more liberal or left wing kind of ideology, right? But I wouldn't say that people would choose their political stance based on those things. You know what I mean? Because like you can still be kind of a liberal person and want to help people and still be like a right wing kind of conservative, right? It doesn't matter. What you're looking for is the economic, financial, and social values that go along with what you want to vote into power, right? But what is that? I mean, we don't have real left wing, right wing anymore. We have a blurred line of this bizarre centrism, and that it's very rare you see that. I mean, well, nowhere in the world, there's nowhere in the world really with left and right wing. I mean, you could argue the point that like North Korea is left wing, but they're not. They have a dictator. It's totalitarianism. That's not left wing. You know what I mean? Like so there isn't we don't have examples of left or right wing, which is funny. And people always say like I'm left wing, I'm right wing. It's like you're nothing, bro. You don't have anywhere to point. Like you're just shooting in the dark, bro. You know what I mean? You
I,
know.
yes, I agree. And so, what about like, I went to a Bible study one time, and I thought it was one of the more brilliant questions I've ever been asked somewhere, because we went into a circle and every woman was supposed to say how they're typically misunderstood. And the,
Yeah.
the purpose behind it was we can regularly step into something because of who we are, that we're expressing in a way that other people might misinterpret. And if we're seeing a pattern in that over and over, then why wouldn't we just share with each other, hey, I tend to read a lot, so I share a lot. So if I come off like a know-it-all, please let me know,
Yeah.
because a
Yeah.
lot of people take it that way. So if you had to say that your number one way that you're misunderstood, what would you say that would be?
Oh, geez. People think I'm uh, ignorant because um, I I'm very black and white thinking, and social constructs are quite difficult. Like, so basically, like, say you're say you're sitting down for dinner with a lot of people, I would just get up and walk out, right? Um, which is frowned upon. But I don't know the etiquette in which it's hard to know, is this the right time? Do I talk now? And so people think I'm quite arrogant and super like into myself because I I kind of just do, I'm a little bit in my own bubble, like I'm very much into um like I'm thinking about things constantly. Like I couldn't sleep the other day because I was thinking about an event horizon problem that these scientists were having, right? And I wanted to come up with this idea, and so I was losing sleep and I was freaking out, like, oh my god. And so if I'd have gone out for dinner with people, I wouldn't have been in the conversation. I'd have been like just trying to figure this. Yeah, you know what I mean? So people think I'm like super arrogant, and it's actually cost me a lot of like people like friends and potential partners, because like girls just think I'm like this arrogant dude who's never going to talk to anybody, right? And so they've never approached me, asked me out on a date. I've never been asked out by a girl. I've never been on a date. So it's kind of like, yeah, those things is crazy. And so people do think you're arrogant, and you kind of like, you're standoffish, especially when you're a musician as well. It's like I've signed to two labels. I got a record out in Japan, I got a record out in the US, and like, especially when you play music and stuff, people already put this kind of idea on you, and so then you become like this influencer, and get like thousands of people follow me, and then that becomes a thing, and it's like, but it's not, like I'm really open. Like when I meet fans in the street and stuff, I take selfies, I talk to them, I give them my time, that's precious. I love that, just like you, like, what, you're not paying me to do this, like,
Right.
like we're hanging out, and
Yes, thank you.
so that's a big kind of like big misconception. People just think I'm this like arrogant douche, and I'm like, no, I'm not, like,
Yeah, I'm a big believer in allowing people to be who they are, and a lot of people still resist that. So, like for instance, like my family at Thanksgiving, my son is just like you. He'll be like, "Dinner was great, I'm going out with my friends." And everyone else is like, "Why is he leaving?" And I always blessed him because I used to do things that I didn't want to do because
Yeah.
I felt the pressure from other people to conform to what they want. And I do believe there's a spectrum there of where it's healthy and unhealthy, but I completely get what you're saying. And I think that another beautiful thing about what you offer is to show people how to be sovereign, how to
Mm-hmm.
actually be comfortable in your own skin. And I mean, look at you do everything from skateboarding to surfing to music to trying to figure out scientific issues. It's awesome. But I do want to kind of rewind to what you kind of alluded to, and didn't you earlier say you have a girlfriend?
I do.
Okay, so but you don't date. How do you get a girlfriend without dating? I would love to hear this.
It's really funny. Okay, so um oh god. Okay, so I do a
You
lot of
don't
things
have
like,
to share if you don't
no,
want
no, I do. It's interesting. I do a lot of videos on autism dating, or autism and kind of relationships, because it's a big question. So bars and clubs and things like that, super overwhelming for me.
to. Oh
I've been to one nightclub in my entire life, and I don't drink alcohol. I don't do any kind of drugs. I don't smoke. I'm a vegan. Like I'm very much a clean life, happy life. And the reason is because I say the cleaner I am, the higher I am, the closer I am to God. Right? That's my expression, and so those things help me, be me, and like I said, be closer to God. So in terms of meeting girls, that just chops a huge kind of section straight out. You can't go to a singles bar because like it's never gonna happen. So how I've met girls, I've only had like three girlfriends in my whole life. So I had one girlfriend in high school who was sitting next to me in computer class.
yeah.
And she helped me with my work, and that's kind of like it. And we just started hanging out and stuff. And then I went to college, and I was doing performing arts in college, and there was we were with so performing arts and music I was doing in college, and then obviously there was a bunch of like dancers and girls and like hot girls, so dancers and stuff, and so I kind of was like, whoa. And then that kind of just like happened, and then the girlfriend I'm with now, I've been with for 13 years or more than that, maybe 14 years. We we met because she'd already seen me around, and I'd been on TV and stuff, and so she'd seen me on TV. And she lives in not far from. She lived just like 7 miles away from my home, so she was like super close, right? But I'd never really seen her. And then I was doing a talk for her class. She was in college, and I was doing like a bit of a lecture on media and presentation in media, and uh, and then that's it. And that's how I met her. And then she kind of we then started talking on MySpace. Yes, I'm that old, and and then we just kind of that's it. And that's how I met her. We just kind of hanging out, and but it's completely bizarre. And I say this now, like if I was a single guy right now, I have no idea how I would ever date, like it's so crazy. Because I have no idea. Like I have no like dating skills. Like, what do you wear a suit, buy flowers? I don't know. Like that's all I see on movies. Like I have no idea, like, and like I've never been on a date. So, I've done things like, people go on dates don't like to meet people, right? And then they sit down and have this like awkward, like small talk, which I'm no good at.
Right.
And it would just be painful. I wouldn't even know how to do it. I'd be so nervous. I probably wouldn't even turn up. I'd just be like, oh no, I can't, like I'd be so worried that they'd be like, this guy's ugly as sin. I'm going home. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with like that type of pressure, I don't know.
And what if there were fluorescent lights in the restaurant?
Oh geez, I'd be flipping tables and I'd be out of there, man. No, I'd be like, check please.
Can we sit outside?
Yeah. No, seriously, Dad, I'd be like, look, let's just get a burger and sit in the car, like that's what I would do.
And so what are her observations? Does she contribute information to your channel as a partner of somebody?
Yeah, actually, it's funny because she was doing a degree in childhood studies and development in autism. How weird is that? Around about the exact same time I got diagnosed, within the space of like 2 years, she was doing a degree and I was diagnosed. So it was just again like this whole master plan, right? So we just kind of like the universe threw us together and did all the stuff. And I was like, wow. And then so she kind of comes she has a first degree honors in this in a degree in it, so she kind of comes in on an academic side and tells me these things, and especially when it comes down to little tiny children, like whenever people message me and say like, oh, my toddler or my kid, he's like 2 years old and all this stuff, I'm like, okay, I have to speak to my girlfriend because like she's the girl who knows all this stuff. And so yeah, and it's really cool. And she's really good. She worked in a special educational needs school here, Bridge School here, really like a £4 million Bridge school. It's crazy good. Like it was crazy good. So she worked there as like a specialist for years. And they keep asking her to go back, but we're doing YouTube and stuff now, so we don't need to kind of do those type of typical jobs anymore, but like they keep asking to go back. She just, and another school has asked her to go work there. But yeah, so she does contribute because she's like invaluable in the stuff she's done, and like her dissertation was just like great as well. So
That's really cool. And talk about being an expert. I mean, you can't
yeah,
get more expert than 10,000 hours with someone.
yeah. Dude, it's crazy. Like, that's the thing. Like she lives it day in, day out, and it is testing, and that's the thing. Like, relationships are hard work. Yeah, the best of, relationships are hard work and there's a reason for that, because we all work at relationships, and work at marriages and stuff like that. And, it's because, and in my mind, it's that because anything that's worth having should be hard work, right? Nobody gives us anything. We all work for hard, nobody just gives you money. You don't expect to just have things. You work for those things, right? Like nobody gave me 200,000 subscribers on YouTube. I work my ass off, right? And that's what we all do. We work hard because and this is the thing, we work hard and we take the opportunities and the abundance blessings from God, because that's there. Everything is there from the taking, as long as you're open to it. Yeah. And so she actually, and it is hard work with someone who's on the spectrum, because we don't always see eye to eye
Right.
with things. And so, yeah. And it's not just not seeing it. Yeah, exactly. It's the interpretation. It's not just like disagreeing on stuff. It's like completely like, I have no idea what you're saying. I literally, how many times, we may be having an argument or a row or something, I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying to me. Like it literally sounds like you're speaking Chinese. I know I can speak with Chinese. Okay, it's like you're speaking Swahili. Like I have no idea what you're saying, right? So, and it is like that. It's like a foreign language, and I'm like, oh, it's crazy.
That's so cool. And so I know that you had about 45 minutes, and thank you so much. I can't believe how fast it went by. I've got 4 minutes left. So
well, we could do we can go for another 10. It's cool. Don't worry. Let's go for a little bit now.
Okay,
You're
cool.
welcome.
I'm
enjoying
it, and it is amazing to me to listen. And so tell me when you shine. Like when is the time where you are like just like radiating you?
Oh man, you know what's funny? When so I do, I'm a keynote speaker, so I do keynote talks all over the world. I actually pioneered the first ever neurodiverse talk panel in VidCon, which is the biggest video conference in the world, in Anaheim, in near Los Angeles. Yeah, and thank you, dude. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Me and a girl who had ADHD called Jess from she has a channel called How to ADHD. She's really cool, and she's a good friend of mine. And we like pioneered this panel. And we did this talk, and it was nuts. It was like sold out. It was crazy. And so things like that, I did the same in Comic Con over here in the UK, in London. And I talk all over the world: Spain, Denmark. I went to MIT, studied on like a seminar for like 10 days, and I got this like this thing from MIT. It was crazy. Yeah. So it was like, I'm a graduate from MIT, but not in science, in social media, digital leadership, and disabilities and things like that. It's cool. I've done a lot of things. And where I really shine and where I resonate is when I'm talking to people and I can relate to people that through enlightenment. Like I feel, like, and I wrote a book. My first book was on theology and philosophy, but it's kind of like people people are so disconnected with with the world. They're so like buried in the world, right? Because they got all this stuff like forcing in their face, like fast food and magazines and radio and television and social media. They all this stuff. They just kind of become this plastered blanket on the wall. They don't really engage with reality. You know, I mean, they're just glazed over. And so I love waking people from the slumber. You know, and I kind of and I really come alive when I'm talking to people and I'm teaching. And I teach in parables, you know, because the greatest teacher in the world, obviously Jesus Christ, was teaching in parables, right? And so I love teaching people through examples of things and life stories and saying like, you know, I had this example and then this is how, and I love that, you know, and I do it all the time. I'm kind of like I love coaching people and like and when they come to me with stuff like and it's philosophical or it's kind of like I've got this, you know, doing this and the other, and I love that, you know, because I don't know what it is. It's kind of like I feel like it just resonate differently when I'm helping people on that level. And I love it. Like to help people come around and get kind of like a realization or a cognition. It's like, whoa, you know, and I just love that, you know, and like, oh, it's just crazy. It's just I just love that. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's, and I'm so glad because I thought of another question that I wanted to ask you, but it would have
Sure.
been past the time. And so I have a friend who I absolutely adore, and she is very low on the spectrum, so much fun, but she can't, like, I can't invite her to the cowboy game. Like,
Sure.
she's going to be more one-on-one at the house and, you know,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But one of the things that I've seen with her, and I don't know if this is normal, but it's everything has to be so perfect that it delays it actually getting out into the world.
Sure.
Did you struggle with that when you were starting your channel? Because I think this is huge for people if that's normal.
Sure. And when you say delay in getting out to the world, do you mean like going out of the house, or do you mean putting a
No,
video
I
onto
mean
YouTube?
expressing their gifts to the world through social media, through their business, through whatever, because they're so well, first of all, they're so gifted at putting things together
Yeah.
that I mean, when she does anything, it's 100% the best thing you've ever seen.
Yes.
And so, but it also, in some ways, I believe, has helped kept her from expressing as big as she's probably capable of being,
Yeah.
um, because she wants it absolutely
Be
perfect
perfect.
before she lets it all the way go. And there is no such thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, the perfect doesn't exist, right? Because the
Right.
only way to go from perfect is decline.
And
You
so
can never
is
reach
that
that.
an Asperger's trait or is that just her?
Well, yeah, kind of. It's a bit of both. It's what you're getting is a more intense or a more concentrated version of. So people typically like if you're going to put yourself out into a public, you know, the public sphere, you want to make sure that it's perfect. That's why we do our hair, makeup, our clothes, and we do those things before we go to the grocery store, we're going on a night out, whatever. Because we want to look our best because we're representing ourselves. So we all have an idea of what we perceive as good enough, right? And so you have some personality traits are perfectionists, right? So people want to make sure these things are great because they are very conscious of the fact they want to make it great and they want to make that good first impression. But then on the other hand, you've got Asperger syndrome, where you have almost like an OCD, which is a little bit different to your typical diagnosis of OCD, where things have to be in a certain, they have to be quite peculiarly exact because it's a way of feeling comfortable. It's like aligning things so that you feel comfortable with them, you know. And so you've got this kind of magnification. What it sounds like is she's both personality types, and she's like the Asperger's kind of OCD and also a bit of a perfectionist, and then you've got
Okay.
pretty
Yeah, that
much
makes sense.
a
I know that,
concentrated
like,
version of it.
for me, I can't even begin to work unless my house is clean. So my
Yeah.
house has to be clean. And
I'm
so
the same.
maybe I have a little bit of that. I'm not fanatical about it,
Sure.
but I feel better. Like it's just
Yeah.
this like
Yeah, you
feeling.
can breathe, right? Yeah, well, stuff has tension. It has charge. It has electric charge. It sits there, just like ooh. I can't stand clutter. My house is. I'm a minimalist, and like my house is super Scandinavian minimalism. Like, you know, it's a brand new house. We just bought. It's just been built, and like everything's just complete. Like you see my desk, it's all just like dead. Like everything's in its place, and it has to be like that because I feel like you know a cluttered desk or cluttered house is a cluttered mind. It's not going to help you out, is it? You know what I mean? So I'm with you
And
there.
then yet you see people who have completely cluttered houses that are functioning very highly. So it's, I
Well,
guess, to each their own, right? Um,
Well, yeah. I mean,
But
Yeah,
I
there's a
agree with you. I agree with you.
yeah.
That's why I used to always tell my kids, this is just showing me what's going on inside of you.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. We all, yeah, everything is a signal, right? And how we live our lives is also a signal of what's going on in our lives.
Yeah. So one of your greatest epiphanies of life, like, you have all this like wisdom. What are some of your best nuggets?
Oh, I there was okay, I'll tell you a story. There's if you as long as you don't mind me talking about Buddha. Yeah, Buddha was non-dogmatic. I know we talk about like false gods. Buddha's not a god. Buddha's a guy sat under a tree, right? But he had some really great stories to tell. Just like Jesus, he was a parable teacher.
Right.
So one day the Buddha was sitting down under his tree, his Bodhi tree, and this guy came to him and he said, hey, uh I've got problems. I need you to help me. And the Buddha said, okay, sit down, talk to me, whatever. Maybe I can help you. And this guy says, okay, I've got a farm, I've got a wife, I've got kids. Sometimes the kids don't respect me. I mean, I might be in love with my wife. And this is going back hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years. And I might be in love with my wife. I don't know. We've got these kids. They don't respect me. The farm kind of turns over some crops. We had a really weak year. And he's going on and on about how miserable his life is. And the Buddha says, whoa, 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 stop. He's like, that's what? So well, I can't help you. And he's like, well, what do you mean? He said, well, you're talking about living life. So if you don't want to live life, then you can't accept those things. Yes, your kids might, be rubbish, but they'll also be really good. And yes, your wife may not love you, but maybe you can fall in love with her. And maybe the farm didn't grow well this year, but next year maybe better. And so the Buddha said, a man who has 10 friends has 10 problems, right? And that's all he said. That was his parable. And I thought, what does that mean? And it's very simple. And it took me about 10 years to figure this out. What this means is very simple. If you have 10 friends, you have 10 problems. And people are always scared of problems. But I'll tell you something funny about problems in a second. But if you had no friends, you'd have no problems. But let me ask you this. What is a life like without friends? You know what I mean? So in order to have friends, you have to have problems.
Right.
Because that's the balance of life. You're up and you're down, you're black and white, you're yin and yang, it's everything. It's the good and bad, evil versus good. It's the devil versus God. It's everything encompassed. That is life. We have to see this balance and we live in the equilibrium in the middle. And the thing about problems, let me tell you something. This is an epiphany I had as well. I was sitting down with a spiritual, I was doing spiritual counseling and and the guy who was coaching me, we were going through problems. He said, tell me about problems. And I was like, yeah, this is a problem. This is a problem. He said, okay, tell me another problem. He's like, okay. He said, let's visualize a problem. So a problem is a boulder in the middle of the road that I'm trying to walk across. He said, okay. He said, how would you get rid of the boulder? I said, you move it out of the way, obviously. He said, well, how did it get there? So it rolled on to the road and I can't get through. He said, well, what are you trying to do? I said, well, I was trying to go from here to there and the boulder was there. He said, okay, so do we have a problem? I said, well, yeah. And he goes, do we have a problem? I said, well, kind of. He said, no, think about it. I said, okay. He said, do we have a problem? I said, no, we've got a potential towards a solution, but we don't have a problem.
Right.
So life isn't about problems. Life is about potential towards solutions. How do we solve these things? And it just broke my mind. I was like, holy smokes, the guy's right. We don't have problems. We have potential towards solutions, but we
Yes.
perceive these things as problems because we're just seeing the negative. We just say, oh, there's a problem there. But and this is interesting, just like there's good and there's bad. If I asked you who's the opposite of God, you'd say the devil, right? If I say what's the opposite of black, you'd say white. If I say what's the opposite of problem, you say solution. So I say, if you know there's a problem, then you definitely know there's a solution. So what do we have?
Amen.
Right? So, and that was it. That just like blew my mind.
Yeah, I like it because it gives me another way of saying it because I do coach people and I always say it's an invitation. It's an invitation for you to, graduate from this, whatever
Yes.
this is. And
Whatever
sometimes
this
it's a
is.
pattern and other times it's a random occasion. It just depends on what it is.
Oh,
It does remind me. Oh, go ahead.
I got a creepy. Do you want to hear a creepy story? I was visited by the devil once. Do you want to know? No, like
Oh
I
my God,
swear down. Like, dude,
I
seriously,
believe you.
like
Wow, that's
this
so
really
scary.
happened.
What do you think let that in?
Oh, well,
Did you have a
uh,
relic in your house or something?
no, do you know what it? I don't, dude. I have no idea what it was, but like I don't know how it happened, but I can tell you exactly what happened, right? And this is it's a very small story. It's not a big complex thing. I
Okay.
was in college, and there was a girl there who was and this is before I kind of like really had a spiritual awakening, right? It was before I was kind of like, realized before I did, because I pray every day and every night, every morning, every night I pray. It was way before all those days. And there was a girl in there, she was a big Christian. And I said to her, and I said to God, I said, look, God, just give me a sign, right? That you're real. I really need some guidance. And then so she comes to me and she was like, hey, Dan, I want to have this. And she gave me a Bible. And I was like, holy smokes, how weird is that? So anyway, but yeah, right. So I put the Bible in my pocket and took it home. I was reading it. And so I get on the bus and there's me and the girl I was dating at the time, the girl that was in the performing arts college, and a friend of ours who was on the same bus route and he lived near where I lived. And my girlfriend was staying at my house because we had class the next day and it's just easier. And because she lived way far away from me. So we come off the bus and it's kind of like October time. It's dusky, it's a little bit dark. And we're walking up this alley. And the alley is actually interesting. It's between an old convent and a church. There's a big Christian church on one side and there's a convent on the other side. And so I was walking up this alley, super dark, and this really weird looking guy was just like really looking at me. And he looked kind of a bit like homeless, but threatening, right? And I was like, oh my God. So I was looking at this guy the whole time as he passed us, and he like came like really close to us, and he passed us, and as he came past, and I said to the guys, "Cool, that guy's really creepy," right? And then the guy who was with me and my girlfriend were like, what guy? I was like, and he just disappeared. And I was like, holy smokes. So we just like ran home, and we're like, I'm like 17, right? I'm like, oh my God, it's like running home. So anyway, I said, and this is where it gets really messed up. So I was like sleeping. We were laying on the bed. She was studying. And I was like, I'm gonna have to sleep because I'm like exhausted because I just like freaked out, right? So I'm like laying on my bed and I'm just like nodding off. And I have this dream that I'm in the exact same position, laying on my bed. And then I kind of sit up and the door opens. And a friend of mine who I was with today, I went surfing with him yesterday, he came in holding a severed human head, right? And he looked at me. And as he looked, this is where it gets really weird. As he looked at me, I hear this knock at the door, doom, doom, doom. So I wake up out my dream and I say to my girlfriend, who's knocking the door? And she said, nobody. And at that exact moment, bang, 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 a knock on my actual door in real life. I was like, on this point, I'm cold sweating, dude. Like I'm like in my pajamas, like this been a crazy day. So then I open the window I open the window in my home and I look down and there's a drunk guy rambling about something. He's like, is Mary here? Is Mary here? I'm like, dude, get out. Like, knock somebody else's door, man. It's like 10, like 15 at night. Like, go on. And he was like, oh, and he kind of like stumbles away. Dude, the weirdest experience of my life. And I'm telling you to this day, like that was the devil, man. And he came and just to scare me.
Well, I hope you opened that Bible up right away.
I did. I read the whole thing. I was like, yeah, I'm just going through the whole thing, right? Like, oh, dude, I get a goosebumps thinking about it, dude. Like, seriously, dude. Like, honestly.
I think sometimes that happens when we're about to make those spiritual decisions for good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's kind of like that last,
It,
like how
trying to
there's like
claw on.
surface tension with water,
Yeah.
and it's like
Before it
trying to
breaks. Yeah.
hold it in before it pops out.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
definitely, dude. Because I'm so much more enlightened now. But if it wasn't the devil, it was obviously it was a sign from the devil. It could have been a demon. I don't know, right? Because
It
but
wasn't
it was,
it wasn't pleasant, that's for sure.
dude. Like, yeah, it
And
was
thank
crazy.
God that you've made the choices that you've made. But
Oh,
I remember
100%.
back to something you had said earlier, that you had something to share with us about a therapist. And we'll let this be
Yes.
the last one because we're already at an hour.
Okay, sorry, guys.
No,
I get
this
so
is
into
great.
talking.
I love it. But I want to respect you.
Sure, thank you. I appreciate that. So there was a woman called Dr. Ali, and or Dr. Ali Arena, and she was a friend of mine. She's an autism therapist, and during COVID, she said to me she had a coaching call with me because I coach like some professionals and stuff like that as well. So she had a coaching call. And she said, "Dude," it's like, "What?" She's like, "Oh man, I'm having such a difficult time. I'm trying to coach these kids on the autism spectrum, and normally we sit down face to face to kind of my clinic, and I sit down with them, but now I'm having to do it over Zoom or whatever." And I'm like, okay. And she's like, if you try get a 10-year-old autistic kid to sit down on Zoom for more than 3 seconds, it ain't gonna happen. They're lost interest. They're off. They're off. There's Legos everywhere. You know what I mean? Like Minecraft is on the TV. They've gone. And I said, okay. I said, do they play Minecraft? She said, yeah. I said, both of them? She said, yeah. I said, okay. I said, what you need to do, Ali, go home, make a Minecraft account, set up your next meeting in Minecraft on their
Oh,
server,
brilliant.
and build Minecraft with them and talk to them. I said two magical things are going to happen. One, you're going to be on that level. It's called
Yeah.
pairing, right? So you're going to be on the
Oh,
level with them.
so good.
And the second thing is they are going to be in the happiest place that they're going to be comfortable because they're playing Minecraft, and they will talk honestly and openly because they're comfortable.
Yep.
Dude, seriously, I have a video testimonial on my website from her
Oh my
because of
God.
this, right? And you can see the video testimonial at learnautism.net if you're interested.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, she she was like, dude, I've had the best session I've ever had with these kids, better than face to face, better than Zoom, better than anything else, just because I play Minecraft with them. Now she teaches almost exclusively with these kids in Minecraft. I was like, dude. So that was like, when people come to me with these potential towards solutions, I say
Right.
to them like,
Win-win.
okay, let's fix it. Let's map it out, because nothing is impossible, just improbable. We just haven't thought of the solution yet because there's a potential there, and that's all we need is the potential.
Yes. Oh, I love it. My son's ADD and or ADHD and dyslexic, and I remember reading every book I could, and then finally I just started calling the authors. Like it would be like someone like you that I was just like, I don't know, if they don't answer, they don't answer. But I got
Yeah,
a hold of this one woman, and she spent a half hour with me, and she literally said the greatest thing that you can do when you have any learning difference is to try everything.
yeah,
Like literally try everything. And I did. I mean, we spent a fortune with every different sport, every different thing, trying to make him find his niche.
yes, yeah,
And it ended up being computers. He just, even though he was 6'4" and athletic and all that stuff,
yeah,
he really just digs computers. He just gets
yeah,
them. They just speak to him.
yeah. Oh, absolutely, dude.
Yeah, it's very cool. But thank you so much, Daniel. This has been wonderful. You are amazing, and you're funny,
Oh.
and you're fun, and you're so accomplished. And there was so much more here that I didn't know about. If you could tell everybody how they could find you
Sure.
and what your channels are and all that stuff.
Yeah, so you can follow me on any single social media platform you can possibly imagine, because I'm on every single one, like seriously. So you can just find me, and it's at the Aspie World. So it's TheAspieWorld. You can find me everywhere. Facebook, I upload 2 videos a day on Facebook. I upload multiple videos a day on Instagram and TikTok, YouTube, Vero, Twitter. We have a blog, theaspieworld.com. You can read my blog. And I also have a podcast as well. Just type in the Aspie World on any podcast network and you'll find my podcast. There's hundreds and hundreds of hours of episodes on there.
So fantastic. And then I thought I saw, because I went into your website or whatever, and you obviously have merch,
Sure.
but I thought I saw something about NFTs. Are you involved in NFTs also?
I am involved in NFTs, yeah. They're taking a bit of a backhand slap the past couple of months, but
Yeah.
yeah, we do have NFTs. We set up an NFT project to raise money for the National Autistic Society, which is the
Oh,
UK's kind of gold standard. So we do have some. I think we have one still available, like one NFT available. Like seriously, we sold the rest of them. But you can buy them through the what was the best way to do it? We have an NFT Twitter account, which is that's the best way to buy the NFTs. If anybody does want to check them out, I do love NFTs. I do have some. I don't know. Do you own any NFTs?
I'm so clueless about it, but like my nephew just bought his condo because he got into it early,
Good
NFTs
man.
and crypto. So,
Yeah,
um,
I do a
but
lot
maybe
with
you'll
crypto.
come back and teach all of us older people how to
I would
how
love
to get
to. I'm
involved
just
in all that. That would be
so if
fun.
yeah, so TAW NFTs is my Twitter for the NFTs, right? You can find the
Okay,
link there.
TAW, it's the Aspie or Aspie World, and
Yeah,
then
TAW NFTs.
NFTs.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you just go there and you'll find them. So yeah, we did the first drop on we used an independent uh, 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 carbon neutral NFT producer because obviously we're trying to do our bit to kind of keep energy down. So, but yes, but crypto is awesome. I own a bunch of Bitcoin and stuff like that, and so not cashing out just yet, but yeah, we'll keep that going. But yeah, dude, like if anybody is interested in crypto, the easiest way is PayPal allow you to buy crypto through PayPal now. So just go to your PayPal account, log in, and type in like crypto, and you can just buy Bitcoin and stuff through PayPal. You can just put $10 on it, 15,000 bucks, whatever you want. So but it's cool to get in now because 25 years from now you're going to be so glad you did that.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. Thank you so much for everything. You are an absolutely delightful person, and I'm so
Oh, thank
glad
you.
that your smart aleck comment Uh,
I want to know what it is. I want to know what
I
it
know.
was. God
I was
dang it.
too lazy to go back. I tweet so much that
Dude,
it's a job to go back and look
it
for it.
is. It's a bit of a
Plus, I don't
pain, isn't it?
remember which one it is, and it was on a
Was
comment.
this
And
was this thing about Trump? Maybe
I don't
I
have a
was it something like,
clue.
oh, Joe Biden, because we were just I know I don't like to make
I
take
don't
the
know,
mic,
but
but
all I know is it made me laugh aloud, and I was like, I like people that do this, so I want to follow him.
oh, I did. I want to know what it was. Like, it was so funny. Like, I don't know. I'm
If you
such a
find it, let me know because I'll post it.
see. That's the thing. Like, I'm such a like a conspiracy
It's so
theorist. It was
fun
probably
how people meet though, right? Um,
yeah.
you just never know what day someone's going to come into your life, and
All
it
happens
could
for a reason,
be
though, right?
one of those life-changing people in your life, or it could just be, this one bit of information that you're supposed to get from somebody or whatever it is. But there's just so many treasures inside of one human. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's fun. It's like it's funny. Like we all have a story, haven't we? We all have a story to tell, and I think that's great. And yeah, I mean, coming across people randomly is probably the best sign from the universe to say like, hey, you guys are supposed to meet and do some stuff. I don't know, but yeah, I'm really blessed to be on the show and to just talk to people. Really really awesome.
Yeah, thank you. You're such a great role model. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. I will put all of his information in the description box and I will pin it. So have a
Yay.
beautiful weekend, young man.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, I'm not so young these days, but yeah, thank you. I'm going running tomorrow. I run every single day. I do about 6 kilometers a day, which is about, I don't know, like 4 or 5 miles. So I'm going running tomorrow morning. My girlfriend's brother-in-law is coming over. We're going to do some runs. So that's the only
Yeah,
thing I have planned for this weekend. So
that was one of the other questions I was going to ask you, but maybe you'll
hit
come
me.
back again because I was
No, hit me.
curious
Come on, let's
what
do it.
your
What's the question?
well, I was just curious what your thoughts were because I know that you said for you personally, you're not into drugs. What do you think of all this ayahuasca, mushrooms, all that kind
Oh,
of stuff?
microdosing. Um, I'm a chemist, so I have a degree in chemistry. And um, drugs are drugs and should be treated as such because they're medicines.
Right.
Anything from cannabis to mushrooms, right up to chemotherapy. Right, these things are drugs. There's a lot of speculation, especially now with the internet, that people come on and they say like, oh, the COVID vaccine, for instance. People were like, the COVID vaccine, they can't make something up in 15 days. It's been 12 years, dude. Like SNN1, the SARS virus, like 12 years ago in like Hong Kong or whatever. That's when they started making that virus anti-vaccine. So it's like, I get why people are worried about things, and people's speculation. But when you really look at something, there's something else as well. Something I'll just say about the COVID vaccine before I tell you about the mushrooms. The COVID.
I was more interested in the mushrooms.
I know I am no, I will get to it in a minute. My brother's got such a funny story. He actually, yeah. Anyway, but so the COVID vaccine, somebody said something like it had something in it. It was like carcinogenic, right? And I said, yeah, probably. But what is it per molar, right? How we measure things in chemistry, it's like per molar. You think like tiny, tiny, like an eighth of a grain of sand. You're like, this isn't going to do anything to you, but it will cause um, a catalyst effect with other drugs within that thing. So this is not cancerous to you, says the guy who's smoking. You know what I mean? Like, come on, dude. Also, drinking alcohol will give you 7 types of cancer that's
Very
only available from drinking alcohol, right? So it's like people drink alcohol, but they wouldn't take a COVID vaccine. It's kind of like, okay. But anyway, each their own. I mean, whatever. But in terms of mushrooms, um, what happens is when you have things like mushrooms that are kind of psychedelic mushrooms, or whatever you want to call them, they are basically it's an acid that reacts with something in your brain. But what's happening is your body has everything that it needs to create those environments, right? So it's not like you take the mushroom and it's the mushroom that's making you kind of
right.
like
Being dropped from
hallucinogenic.
your
Yeah. What actually is happening is it's just opening a door. So like the mushroom kind of goes in and just goes, we go, and it opens a floodgate, depending on the amount you take, right? Like anything else, you've got to take highly concentrated versions of something, you're going to pass out. If you take tiny, tiny bits, it has some really good benefits. Kind of like it drips dopamine, right? And this is what it is. So when you have like plants, because all chemicals come from plants basically in the day, and all drugs come from plants. You have people who will abuse it, like people who abuse alcohol. But then you have people who can use it very, very well. Like I use alcohol to clean my surfaces. In chemistry, we clean glasses with alcohol. I wouldn't drink it. But there's people who drink it, right?
Right.
Which is nuts. To me, that's nuts. Like I think that's crazy. But like,
I love it.
something I'd clean the floor with alcohol. I wouldn't drink it. Like, come on, guys. But there's people who would would take loads of mushrooms. My brother, right, gay man, right, and he's a lovely guy. And him and his boyfriend took mushrooms because in the gay culture, I don't know if you have it the same in the US, but the gay culture in the UK is that like they're all into drugs and they go party, they get drunk and they party and they're all into drugs. It's nuts. Like I don't know why, but they're all into it. And so he took this like these mushrooms. He had this crazy trip. He's like, whoa, like my arms are big and all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, because you abused the mushroom. If you'd taken like a tiny piece, then maybe it would help with a headache, or maybe it would help with kind of back pain, or you know what I mean? So
Right.
so as long like all of these are God's gifts, they're here and they're willing to just be picked and used correctly. But we just have to be smart enough to know when there's enough is enough,
Yeah.
right? And so, and that's all it is. It's just like anything else. And so, and like THC and cannabis, like I obviously don't take cannabis, but if I was sick and I needed to take cannabis, of course I'd take cannabis. Like, you know what I mean? Like, of course I would. Like,
Absolutely, me too. And
the,
I don't really have any attraction to it at all.
no,
And then I'm one of those very lucky people that if I can sit quiet with my eyes closed, I open those doors.
yeah,
And so I release whatever it is or open whatever doors that I have these incredible experiences. And so I always tell people you don't even have to do drugs if you can learn to sit quiet.
that's right. Yeah,
Most
yeah,
people can't sit
absolutely.
quiet.
Do you know what's something else? I'll leave you with something that's
Okay.
really beautiful. And it comes from it was something that the Dalai Lama said, and it's a great thing because I'm a very theological person. Like I love it all. I love all spiritual people. People who are awakened and spiritually awake, love it because I feel like the closer we all are to God. That's my perspective, right? And the Dalai Lama said something amazing about quietness and listening. He said, when we speak words that we already know, but when we sit and listen, we have the ability to learn something new. That's just
Yeah.
amazing, right?
And the Bible says the unsearchable things, Jeremiah 33 3.
So
That God
that's it.
can
It's
tell us the unsearchable things.
right, but you just have to you have to listen, right? And it's just, oh, listening is so powerful. It's kind of like that whole thing, like a good dinner guest doesn't just speak about cool things, they also listen to other people's things, right? So it's kind of like that, but in more
Yeah.
theological ways.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. And
Thank you.
I will have all your information. I would love to have you back at any
Sure.
time.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's
tell Alyssa thank you.
I will. Yeah, Alyssa is my assistant. Anybody wondering? And we speak daily. She like literally texts me all the time. I probably got how many texts from her? Loads. Okay, so but yeah, absolutely. Let's come back. We could talk about something. Maybe we could do. Yeah, maybe we could do some like I don't know philosophy or something. I don't know. Let's do something fun. Why not?
Okay, that'd be great. I had a great time and
Yeah,
everyone
me
loved
too.
it. So
Thank you, guys.
no haters in there today.